Works for me.
All right, we are connected. He is here. Newsmax's Gerry Callahan signed in the big bigs. And this is, congratulations, Gerry. How many TV hits have you done in Newsmax? Like 75?
I've done many. Although I was getting ready for a hit today. That's what we call it in the business, getting ready for my hit, sitting here. And I got bumped for the speaker's vote. They blew out the whole show and just did nothing but the speaker's vote, which is too bad because they were going to have me on to talk about people who are burning their Crocs. I don't know if you saw the story where Crocs is sponsoring drag queen story hours and other grooming events. So concerned parents were setting their Crocs on fire, and I support those people. I vowed to I will never wear Crocs in support of that group. And especially yellow ones. I'm never going to wear yellow Crocs. Never again.
The problem is that everybody is supporting Drag Queen Story Hour. It's going to be tough to find anybody.
Yeah, there's no company that you can use that's not for having adult men wear skimpy outfits to read books to little kids, which is an odd thing. I did not have that on my bingo card, but, there you go.
I had my 2023 predictions all listed, and that got bumped for me today on my show by the injury, by obviously the injury, the tragedy in the Monday Night Football game. But one of them is in 2023, it's going to be the year of the transphobe. We're all going to wake up to this insanity, and I give all the credit in the world to Matt Walsh and Libs of TikTok and Chris Rufo. But I don't know about you guys, but there was just a moment last year when I was watching, probably reading, Matt Walsh's book or reading Libs of TikTok, and I just said, how did we miss this? They've been doing this for a few years now. These and we used to just chuckle about it. I looked it up last year. There were dozens of drag queen story hours in Boston public libraries, all scheduled 10 a.m., 11 a.m., all designed to bring kids in. And they were freaked out. They were men who were mocking women, making caricatures of women, dressing provocatively, and grooming children. And somehow we just looked at it and laughed for the last few years.
And the people in this state like it. They think it's great. They're all bringing their kids to it and think it's awesome. So I don't know how we reconcile that, but it's, the town next door to us had a school dance with 14-year-olds there, and they invited a drag performer to the dance. I mean,
I don't know. It's kind of and also the trans mob, I think, finally is being confronted. Yeah, and I salute these people, man. Like Billboard Chris, the guy who goes around to the various clinics that mutilate children with his billboard and has conversations. He's doing God's work because. I'm here in Boston. I never realized what was happening at Boston Children's, that they were doing this to children. They were doing double mastectomies to 14-year-old girls. I think if more people learn about it, hear the facts, they're going to be horrified. I think their days of doing this without any resistance, without any opposition are over. I think that's a good thing that's going to happen in 2023.
I kind of feel like it was we talk about these people acting like groomers. I kind of feel like the American culture was groomed into slowly, step-by-step acceptance. It was, okay, Bruce Jenner's looking kind of feminine. Right. Bruce Jenner's making it official. He wants to be a woman now. Bruce Jenner is no longer Bruce Jenner. And then it was, you can't just be okay with what Bruce Jenner is doing. You better love what Bruce Jenner is doing. And then it was, you can't ever say the name Bruce Jenner or else you're killing somebody. And then it was off to the races. It was once they started making rules and people abided by them, because if not, there would be suicides everywhere. They said, here we go, just rush in, and they filled the void. And now I think people just got to snap out of it, because there's no, you got these parents.
I mean, you say it was slowly foisted on America step by step, but it wasn't even that slow. Like, Obama was elected in 2008 saying, like, traditional definition of marriage, and now we're like, drag queens with the toddlers is a great thing. Like, it's actually kind of nuts how fast it happened.
And lopping the breasts off a healthy young girl, and I think there's some of it's very graphic and disturbing. You see, I tweeted out a thing today about the surgery. Where you take all the flesh off of a kid's arm, a girl's arm, and form a penis.
Yeah, it's barbarous.
Right. It's barbaric.
Yeah.
And I think that's a winning issue for Republicans because, I mean, people obviously in the fringe, they call it, what do they call it? Gender affirming healthcare.
Yes.
But anyone sane, anyone rational says they're doing that to kids, confused kids. I mean, I believe the number is in the last 5 years, the number of Gen Zers identifying as trans has gone up 2,000%.
Yeah.
That's a trend. That's just a trend. That's just someone trying to, be in with the latest trend. And you have to stop and think they're directing them to clinics which think surgery solves the problem.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys follow. Some of these detransitioners are amazing. This girl, Chloe Cole, who's she's big on Twitter and she's been on Tucker and various other places. Her story is amazing. I mean, they committed surgery on her when she was 15. She was 12 and she was confused about her gender, and they're giving her drugs to delay puberty, and then they're removing her healthy breasts.
Right.
Yeah, which are all being used off-label, by the way. Those drugs were only ever, even like the puberty blockers, which they always are telling you is like the safest, most reversible thing that's ever been. They didn't even put it through any FDA trials for this purpose. The drug is only approved to stop precocious puberty, which is like kids that have puberty very, very young. It was never, ever meant to be prescribed to kids, to stop them from ever going through a normal puberty. That's an off-label use. It's never been tested. We have no idea the long-term consequences of that. We're only just now beginning to see kids who can't have an adult sex life because they never had puberty. How can you possibly say a child can consent to that? It's absolutely insane.
Imagine sterilizing a child, a 12 or 13-year-old who's confused about his or her gender, and saying the solution is to sterilize them. Make it so the girls can never have kids. The boys can never, boys and girls can never have an orgasm. That's your solution. That is absolute madness. That is, Island of Dr. Moreau stuff. And people in the middle have to, they're ignorant to it because the reason Democrats, liberals hate libs of TikTok is she's exposing them. They're posting the videos. They're telling their stories. And she's sharing it.
In their own words, by the way. Their own words. They're saying stuff they're proud of. She's posted more pro-LGBT trans content on Twitter than anybody else.
And it's much like
that's terrorism.
Yes, it is. Much like with the lobotomies 100 years ago, this is being done to free people. Remember, lobotomy was supposed to free a person from the wrath that they were suffering mentally. So, they cut off a piece of the brain, and then now we know that was also Mengele, just a torture of somebody. And then this is the same thing. We're just affirming a young person just to free them. These people are twisted. But the first woman member of the National Institute of Health, Rachel Levine, Gerry, first woman general there, your friend Rachel Levine, said, there is substantial misinformation about gender-affirming care for transgender and gender-diverse individuals. We are facing an onslaught of anti-LGBTQ plus IA actions. So she's under attack. And then he says, the positive value of gender-affirming care for youth and adults is not in scientific or medical dispute. I mean, what
I love that. The science is settled, but the best thing he said, the best thing Rachel Levine said, I think he said it in April, but it just surfaced a couple of weeks ago, is that, everyone transitions at their own pace. He's just glad that he waited till after he had kids because he couldn't imagine his life without his kids. And I'm going, what? What you're doing is forcing this on children who can't consent to this. You're right. They can't consent to get a tattoo or have a beer or drive a car or join the army.
But they can consent to never.
To having their wiener lopped off and never having children, which Rachel Levine says is the best thing that ever happened.
Right. He got his out of the way. So,
I mean, he's the best example of anything. They're elevating him because he wears a dress and changed his name. They're elevating him. He would never be in the administration. He would have been run out of Philadelphia where he was putting COVID patients into nursing homes and killing elderly Philadelphians while pulling his 95-year-old mother out of the nursing home. That guy should be in jail.
Yes.
Instead, Instead, he's like the darling of the Biden administration, and they made him an admiral. He's a pretend admiral, he's a pretend woman, and we're supposed to somehow.
What is it about the left where they don't have any like red flag danger sense for totally crazy people? Like they did the same thing with the Sam Brinton, the one that they hired. That like any normal person can look at this guy and say, "This guy's not all right. We don't want him near our nuclear codes. Like just keep him away."
He's stealing people's luggage because he got a thrill out of it. I would have said the dog video where he's walking his boyfriend around like a dog. I'd say that in a job interview would be the deal breaker. Be like, we're really not into that right here.
Not if you're a liberal. Not if you're a liberal. You should put that on your resume if you're a liberal.
The funny thing is it Sam Brinton is a ridiculous, psychotic, grotesque thing, and this Rachel Levine is a ridiculous insult to women, just bozo. These people are clowns, and the drag queen story hour. This isn't like the male members of the cast of Rent going and doing theatric performances for kids reading books. These are disgusting men with my physique, who are my age, who are stuffed into lingerie, who are reading to kids for some reason.
What about Dylan, what's his face? The guy who got the interview with Biden. Biden sat down, one-on-one interview. Right? He doesn't sit down with any journalists, but he sits down with this person who's been a woman for 200 days. And he just had surgery to reconfigure his face. And we're supposed to celebrate that some surgeon took the time out of his day to carve up this guy's face to make him look more feminine.
The biggest thing about that guy, too, is, like, if you Google him, it says he's 25, and I look at that guy's face, and I'm like, how is that guy 25? He looks like 40. I just don't buy it, too.
Well, you haven't seen him since the surgery.
Yeah.
The taxpayers are paying for it. I just think, to circle back, I think there's going to be real pushback. I commend people like Libs of TikTok and Matt Walsh for standing up to the mob, because I can attest to it, man. It used to be you couldn't discuss these things. You couldn't touch them. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my last days on the air at EEI, the general manager came running in because we were just talking briefly about the guys who were running girls' track in Connecticut and kicking the girls' ass, of course, setting all the records. And he's like, what are you doing? Literally saying, get off that, because if you don't, they're going to come after me. So they've been a very effective mob, and they've been intimidating a lot of people for a long time. And I think that might be changing.
I know the radio business is a business and sales means things, Gerry, but how can you be somewhere where you're not allowed to criticize a day camp for trans kids? You can't even question it, not allowed to discuss it? You can only be on one side of the issue?
Yes. I mean, you can't discuss Leah Thomas, a guy, obviously with a great physical advantage, kicking the girl's ass. And these girls who worked their whole lives for this are, shoved to the side to celebrate women, You support women. So this guy who not only kicked their ass in the pool, but got off. That's the thing with some of these people is they get off on their, the fact that they're making everyone uncomfortable. He walked around the locker room, the girls' locker room, naked, and made 18-year-old girls really uncomfortable. And we're not supposed to criticize.
No, the lesson from Vermont is those girls then should be ejected from the locker room so Leah can have it to himself.
Right.
But that's not where
I don't think that can hold. I feel like the pendulum is swinging, and sanity will be restored to some level, because any normal, sane person knows how crazy this whole thing is.
I agree, and I think that the deciding battlefield will be at these Board of Ed meetings, where concerned mothers who don't do a lot of public speaking get up and say, "I have concerns about this," and they shout them down. And physically shout them down on the phone sometimes and tell them to just be quiet. And then they stalk them on Facebook in their neighborhoods. Once you've pissed enough mothers off, and they've got, a little bit of time in their hands and a lot of passion for their kids, then, you see what happened in Virginia. But, some places.
Well, I think Loudoun County was ground zero. Yeah. Where the girl was raped by this guy dressed up as a girl, and then they moved them around, like the old cardinal law thing, moved the priest around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and arrested the dad.
Does it again. And that superintendent paid with his job. Hopefully, the parents will sue the hell out of him, get his friggin' house, because that is just an insanity. And hopefully it's not going to last much longer.
The Title IX stuff, when they were putting all the tribunals together and deciding that frat boys everywhere had raped people, because really there was a lot of. it's lawsuits, litigation, really, that blew up a lot of those programs in schools, along with Betsy DeVos. But Gerry, I want to get to last night. Alice kept getting these texts.
Not texts. I was on Twitter, and we were not watching the football game, but we got off the podcast and we were doing our thing, and I was like, this football player, have you heard of him? He's trending on Twitter, and Tom's like, no, I haven't heard of him. And then I was going like, it sounds like he got really hurt at this game that's happening right now, and like I really think we should turn this on because something's going on. Tom's like, people get hurt at football games, and I was like, no, I think this is different. And we went and put it on, and we were both.
Alice, the point is not that I'm an a-hole. The point is the topic.
Well, side note, but then we did put it on, and it turns out I was right that it was actually like we were both just like could not look away. What a thing to happen, and.
It wasn't. It was a crime scene. I mean, the look of trauma on all those other players' faces. It was the most compelling thing I've ever seen. I've never seen something like that. Never seen something where.
I sat there. It was 9 o'clock. It was 8:55 when it happened. I sat there for 3 hours, and my son looks at me, and goes, "Are you just going to sit and watch this all night?" I can't stop. I mean, I was watching Adam Schefter look at his phone.
Yeah.
And trying to see the expression on Schefter's face, because I thought if they got the worst possible news from the hospital, Schefter would be the first to know. And I was trying to see how he would react to getting a text saying, he's gone. It was so bizarre. I've watched a million games and seen a lot of injuries. I've never seen this before. I've never seen a deal where the players surround the injured player so you can't see a thing. We didn't get to see any of it.
Right.
We just had to read their faces. They watched him, shock him back to life. They watched him die essentially for 9 minutes, and they shocked him back to life. I assume they cut the helmet off him, and cut the pads and the clothes off him, and then boom, they shocked him. And the players were a couple feet away from watching this happen to their friend, which is why it's so nuts. And Turtle Boy's like texting me tweeting at me right now about how they could play the game today. You could never, ever play a football game after the players saw that.
Yeah, there's all these people who are like, get back on the field.
Yeah, let me read you this. A friend just sent me this. The NFL is such a effing joke. Society is so effing weak. First they postponed the game. Now they aren't even going to play it. After that firefighter in Connecticut died last week, did they stop fighting fires? Oh, here we go. We can't do our jobs now because someone got hurt.
First of all, firefighters, that's essential, and this is not. This is football. Secondly, if they ever played, and I'd be curious to see how it would look, it would be bad. They'd be dropping balls and jumping off sides and getting hurt. They would be totally unfocused. It would have been a mess. And you can't compare, like Turtle Boy was comparing, what if a beer vendor died, or some guy usher? Would they have played on? Well, the players wouldn't be affected by that. Right. The reason they called it off, not just for respect for Hamlin, who might have, passed away during the second half in the hospital, but because they just weren't there mentally. They were wrecked physically, mentally, emotionally. They were incapable of playing football. You could have played, baseball maybe, but you can't play football. It's just too dangerous. It's too violent. You can't fake football, which is why it's such a great sport. That's why the Pro Bowl sucks.
Yep.
It's not real football. That's why you can't have exhibition football. You can't have old-timers game in football. Have you ever watched a flag football game? It's boring as hell. I mean, it's fun to play. I used to play it, but you can't sit and watch a game. The reason people watch it, love it, it's the biggest sport we've ever had, is because of the danger, the violence, the intensity, just the risk is why people love it. And you remove that, it's not the same. People aren't going to be glued to the. I'll bet you there were 12 to 15, maybe more, 15 million people watching last night when that happened. That's a little different than Reggie Lewis collapsing at a shooting around, or Hank Gathers died playing for Loyola Marymount. He collapsed. He died. That was tragic. That was awful. But there were probably like 700 people watching. There were 15 million people watch Tamar Hamlin go down and collapse on his back, saying, "Holy crap, I've never seen anything like this before." It was riveting. It's still, in my mind, it's still, fascinating.
I'm right there with you. And you got to think, well, first of all, that they worked on him, like you said, they cut all his clothes and whatever they did. And that they were probably feverishly and intensely working on this guy in a way that, like you said, they saw somebody dying and they saw medics trying to save him, probably desperately. And unless you've, both of us have lost parents, etc. Maybe you've seen somebody die there, and maybe it got ugly towards the end. But to see a young guy like that, that's gonna mess these people up. I mean, but you got to scrub the season if you're those two teams, right? The rest of the regular season, right?
It's a good question. No, they won't. They'll play. It doesn't. I don't even think it matters what happens to Hamlin. Maybe they would have to cancel this week's game. The Bills are playing the Patriots, but they're not canceling the season for those two teams. Those are two of the best teams in the NFL. That's why it was such a big crowd. This was a great Monday night matchup. But they're going to play on no matter what happens to Hamlin. They're going to play, and both going to the playoffs. They're both Super Bowl contenders. It'll be a challenge to watch how the Bills, particularly, how they recover from this. Maybe it galvanizes them. Maybe they play for tomorrow. Maybe that's the kind of thing and maybe they go out and kick the Patriots' ass on Sunday. I'm not sure how they react, but it depends. A lot of it depends on how he does in the next few days.
Yeah, and I also think, and one of the reasons it was so riveting is like every part of what was happening was shocking. It seemed like the broadcasters didn't know how to bring it back in, because you don't know. Is he dying? Is he dead? Is he not going to die? What happened? They're probably hearing people, photogs, etc., from the field saying, "Holy shit, it's going on. It's going down here. This is incredible. This is terrible." And then the people that radiated out from the players to the crowd. The crowd kind of wandered off like zombies. Like after 9/11, you'd walk past somebody in the street and just kind of look at them and just not say anything, but just nod.
Right.
It was just.
I've seen guys. I was a kid. I saw Darryl Stingley get paralyzed, and that was crushing. And he never recovered. And these guys have been paralyzed or partially paralyzed, like Ryan Shazier and Dennis Bird, Eric LeGrand. It's guys who've been severely, permanently injured. But I've never seen anyone go through this where their heart stops on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, you see them carted off and they can't even move, and they'll give you the little thumbs up sometimes, and they say, "Oh, that's hopefully he'll be okay. Let's play on." But it was impossible. There was no question. And the reason the league said give him 5 minutes, and they took a lot of heat for that, was because they didn't know. Nobody knew except the people that were right there in the small circle around him. They weren't sure how serious it was, I don't think.
No, I think you're right. And it's too fluid. And also, it's not like, 20 years ago, remember that comebacker that hit Bryce Flory and broke his face?
Yeah.
Pitch, and it was pretty gory. But, I mean, that was baseball related. You always know that there's a chance that this is going to happen, that it can happen. It was gory, but it wasn't a trauma for everybody. Mm-hmm. This was
By the way, I didn't know what this Commodio,
Cardis?
Cordis. I didn't know. Yeah, I have the Wikipedia page in front of me. Commotio cordis.
Right.
I didn't know anything about it, but I've been reading about it, and it's more prevalent in baseball and lacrosse and soccer because it's a direct hit on the heart. And like if you get a pitch thrown at you and hit you in the heart, it's killed people. It's not as common in football because you don't have a direct hit on that one spot in the heart.
Yeah.
So not an injury unique to football or even unique to the violence of the game. It's actually, it was kind of a mild hit, kind of a mild routine hit. It was a fluke. I think there's a lot of commentary about the dangers of football. Would you let your kid play football and all that? And that's fine. I'll have that debate any day. But this isn't one of those situations where it's just unique to football and the violence involved in football.
Yeah, but is America in 2022 at a place where we can not make some kind of lesson out of this?
It's a good point. I mean, someone will come up with a chest protector.
Right.
They need to wear chest protectors because actually the shoulder pads kind of cover part of your chest, but maybe they need to reinforce the chest protectors or come out with some rule that you can't hit that one spot in the chest. But there's a lot of people talking about that, the violence, and it's obviously applicable every day, every game. It's so violent, so dangerous. But I think at this point, people know the risk, and especially if you're an adult, a grown man, you know the risk, and you make the deal with the devil, and you get paid a lot, and you get to live your dream. But you might be permanently injured at any moment, and this is an example of that. But it's not unique to football.
But it's almost impossible for this to ever happen, from what we know so far. So this is not something. It's not something that I mean, yeah.
Well, but people hate that. That's what people hate about it. People don't like uncertainty. People like to believe that if you like do the right things and you don't play bad sports like football, or if you're like a good person and you wear a mask or do a vaccine or whatever, that you can like prevent bad things from happening to you if you like take the right and sometimes life just isn't like that. Like, this is an example of one that it's like, how could you know that was possibly a possibility? Like, it isn't something you can control.
What's funny is that, and we talked about how you weren't allowed to ask questions about the trans ideology for the last, 10 years. It was, you can't discuss it, and they could do whatever they wanted. It's kind of that way with the vaccine now, because people on Twitter asking, is he vaccinated? And like, whoa, what? You can't ask that. Yeah. And I mean, I have no problem with people asking it. Hell, if someone died of COVID, the first thing they asked was he vaccinated?
Right.
Or you got COVID because you went to the mall and be, oh my God, were you vaccinated?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They have no problem asking unvaxxed people if they're vaccinated. What's wrong with asking if Tamar Hamlin was vaccinated? I mean,
Gerry,
might be totally relevant, but we should be allowed to ask the question, shouldn't we?
I'll just let you know, Gerry, that there is a midday radio host on an AM station who works for a company that you are familiar with, who was told to stay away from that speculation today.
Today. It's amazing. Like, everyone's thinking it. You're all thinking, first of all, is he vaccinated? Did they require the vaccine? Which they didn't, but they did make you go through hoops if you didn't get vaccinated. As Aaron Rodgers has talked about, you had to get tested every day. You couldn't go in the weight room with your teammates. You had to go separately. Right. And there was and you couldn't go out on the road if they had a road trip, which are generally only one night or two nights. You couldn't go out to dinner with your teammates. There were all kinds of rules for the unvaxxed. The biggest spokesman for anti-vaxxer in the NFL is his teammate, Cole Beasley, who was right there with everyone else. And he's not vaccinated, but you don't know if Tamar Hamlin is vaccinated. And you know what? It probably doesn't matter. It's probably like commotio cordis. It's probably the vaccine's irrelevant, but it's just a weird phenomenon, isn't it? That everyone thinks it, but you're not allowed to say it. I mean, I'm not casting aspersions or questioning his judgment or anything. I'm just saying, do you think he was vaccinated? Whoa, you can't ask that. It's just un-American.
That there's this like cook time for. We're not allowed to ask things anymore. Remember, David Endelman asked why it was okay for looters to destroy businesses. Right. That was That was during the time when you weren't allowed to ask that. Now you can ask. It's been 2 years. We can ask now.
His brothers threw him out, threw him to the wolves and kicked him out of the company because he was speaking out against looting.
He was replaced by Tito Jackson, Gerry. Remember?
Was he?
Yeah. Tito.
They had to pay Tito a bunch of money to explain to them how to not be racist.
Jesus.
It's almost as if it's a shakedown, Gerry.
we did really lose our minds. I love those Twitter accounts that have the never forget what they did. And they show, the band kids in those little pods playing their clarinets. So they show the skateboard park filled in with sand. Yes. The paddleboarder by himself get arrested. Never forget what they did. And,
but everyone did. But everyone did. It didn't matter. Yeah. It didn't matter. In 2022, people voted for the people who did that. So
well, now that Trump has moved away, maybe there can be some common sense.
That was the most disappointing thing about Election Day. I mean, there's a lot of disappointing things, but all the COVID crazies, all the lockdown lunatics got reelected, and now Charlie Baker's leaving, and people are saying he did a hell of a job. I'm going, what? Yeah. Hell of a job. He destroyed the economy of the state. He put thousands of businesses out of business. He set kids back a year, 2 years, and you're going to give him a round of applause on the way out the door? Kick him in the ass. He was a terrible governor, a dreadful governor. And the worst part is he knew better. He knew better. He was a coward. He knew better. He could have been Ron DeSantis, but he was afraid of what the Pizzutis would say about him.
You're right.
What his friends at Harvard would say about him. He was gutless. And that's how we should remember him. He was a terrible governor who had no guts, no balls at all, would not stand up for the people who put him in office.
He stood up and applauded the Black Lives Matter riots in Boston, Gerry. So, right. And he said, "It's great that you're out there. Please be safe." And that was the condemnation.
He's such a hack and a coward. And he gets rewarded with a $3 million a year, phony baloney job at the NCAA. I hope he fails miserably. He was such a disaster. And he knew better. People like Maura Healey or what's her name, Michelle Wu, they don't know any better. They're socialists. They believe all that nonsense. He knew better. He knew it didn't make any sense to shut down restaurants and gyms. Shut down gyms.
I know.
In response to a virus that attacks the obese, the unhealthy. Here's our solution. Let's shut down gyms. That guy, the Globe wants you to know he did a wonderful job helping us through those turbulent times.
Yeah, and they were also reticent to really pinpoint obese people until months and months through the thing. So
Tom personally felt very betrayed by
this. I was walking or waddling around Market Basket every day thinking it was only old people. Who is that?
This little snake.
Oh, yeah, Fauci.
Here, he never mentions. He has yet to mention obesity. He has yet to tell people to eat healthy.
Yeah.
To exercise. It might save your life. You know why? Because he couldn't make any money off it. He couldn't create any more Pfizer billionaires. So he didn't say a word about, trimming down if it might save your life.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, it's Gerry. So before we let you go, any thoughts on the Kevin McCarthy thing? Are you agnostic on him? I know you want Jim Jordan, I assume.
I want Jim Jordan, although I just saw who voted. Chip Roy, I think, voted for Byron Donalds. I love Byron Donalds.
Yeah.
I wish he wasn't from Florida, because that would be my Ron DeSantis running mate. And you know what? I might even go unconventional and say, let's have two guys from Florida, Donalds and DeSantis on the ticket. That would be a kick-ass ticket. But see, I love disruption. I like disruptors. I don't like swamp creatures. So I'm all in on fighting to keep McCarthy out of that office and hopefully flipping some people to Jordan. That would be a good
solution. Well, they flipped one. So on the third vote, everybody switched to Jim Jordan, and then on the second vote, everybody switched to Jim Jordan, and then on the third vote, they added Byron Donalds. So they only have to flip 198 more Congress people before they have it. But then Byron Donalds had this great tweet that I thought was so good, because he tweeted and said, the reason I switched and voted for Jim Jordan is because this is obviously not going to work with Kevin McCarthy. Like, he's not going to get a majority. These Freedom Caucus people are not going to change their minds. And we as a caucus have to go back to the drawing board and talk about this before we do another vote, and figure out who we can have that can get 218 votes. We can't just keep voting and hoping to pick off one or two people for Jim Jordan, or whatever.
You need McCarthy to concede and say, right. Obviously not my time. And I think it'll be a huge blow to the disruptors out there, the firebrands, the Matt Gaetzes, and although Marjorie Taylor Greene is supporting McCarthy, but because you got McConnell.
Jim Jordan is supporting McCarthy. He did the nominating
McConnell's
speech for him.
appearing with Biden tomorrow, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's what you call a traitor. That's what you call a backstabbing snake. A swamp creature, a deep state snake, appearing with Biden to fund spending?
Yeah, without spending.
Minority Leader of the Senate, and you're appearing with him to celebrate spending.
Oh, yeah.
Spending.
He's sending everybody out there. So Biden's sending Buttigieg to Connecticut to tour tomorrow, take the victory lap over some bridges that we're fixing. The American taxpayer.
So
the Democrats would never go and tout Trump's accomplishment. They would never break up their vote for speaker and not figure out who they're having for speaker. They have 100% all voted for Hakeem Jeffries every single time. They don't do stuff like this. Pelosi wouldn't let them do stuff. I don't know. This is why Democrats, I just don't understand how Republicans don't get it yet. That you have to stick together here.
Well, I feel like some of them get it, which is a good sign. But you're right. Think of it, Alice. The squad, AOC and Ayanna and Tlaib and Bernie Bros, they're all in on a foreign war that's cost us $100 billion. These are people that, when they were younger, were anti-war, and Bush is a baby killer and Cheney's a war criminal. They're supporting this pointless, endless foreign war with billions, tens of billions of dollars, and they don't blink. They don't ask for concessions. They get harassed, as we see with AOC, by her constituents who are true lefties, true liberals who are anti-war, but they don't care. They're told what to do and they do it. They fall in line. They pretend they're big rebels. They pretend they're anti-establishment. But Pelosi tells them, you jump, they jump.
And every time.
See that. We don't see that on our side, and that in the end is a good thing. I'm glad the disruptors are doing some disrupting. I'm 100% supportive of what Gates is doing here.
Unfortunately, in 2 years, Gerry, Catherine Clark's going to be doing that in her leadership.
That's right.
It's funny. I have friends that have known Catherine Clark since she was on the Melrose School Committee and have always said that she's teed up to be the first female president. She's just, that's like how she is. She's a climber. But how about, by the way, too, that they're rolling in at noon tomorrow? No, they're like, we have this job where we have to elect like one of the most important people in the entire country, and we can't get it done. So tomorrow we'll start at noon and we'll circle back on this. Like other people have to get up for work in the morning, but not if you're in Congress.
This is the first time they showed up for work in 2 years. It's the first time they've actually had to show up.
Well, it must have really taken it out of them, and they had to put it off tomorrow morning a little bit. They can't come into work at like 8:00 or something.
I thought it was funny though. Their family showed up to watch the new guys get sworn in, and they didn't get sworn in, which was great. Did you see Fetterman with his kids?
Yes.
We know he's got brain damage. He does not recognize them. They walk up to him. He doesn't touch him. He doesn't hug them. He doesn't look at them. He just stands there like the zombie that he is. As his kids, one of them is wearing shorts, by the way, to chip off the old block.
Yeah.
But the mother, Giselle, she's all excited. Kamala's all excited, and Fetterman, is just sitting there like Uncle Festerman, looking around like a zombie. Who are these people? These kids. What are they doing here? It's going to be fun watching him.
Did Trump list him as one of his candidates who won because he was care of Trump?
No, Trump was the other guy. Trump was the Oz guy. Oz was the Trump guy.
Oh, hopefully, I hope Trump hits the road. Anyway, that was a mess. All right, Gerry Callahan. Thank you very much for joining us. He is Gerry Callahan. You can go to follow him on news at The Callahan Show, and you can find him on Newsmax as well. And so are you still doing the local thing, or is that gone now?
It is for now. I'm trying to figure out a way to do it all. You know how it is. You guys are the master.
I'm not a corporate, like I say, I'm a corporate man. Have you seen the stock price, Gerry? We're rolling in it now.
Yeah, it's up to a quarter today, Shattuck. So
sitting pretty.
It's bouncing back.
Yep. Gerry Callahan on Twitter at Gerry Callahan, GerryCallahan. Gerry, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, Shaddocks. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks,
see you later. So there we go, Alice. That's where we are. Nice to talk to Gerry, right?
Of course.
Are we still going?
Of course.
Wait, it says, so are we off the Zoom meeting?
We're off the Zoom meeting, but we're still streaming.
So you did that in one fell swoop?
Yeah.
You made that happen?
And we're streaming.
So everything's working? Should I move my computer?
Mm-hmm. You don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do
Everything's
anything.
fine.
What else do you want to talk about? I think we're out of time, aren't we? Are we not? I don't even know what we're
Do we have any Chat messages?
I don't know. I haven't been... Let me find that. But okay, by the way, Alice, I have you may notice, guys, if you're seeing, one Alice has me in the hot red Hades tone, but I've now got rashes here and here on both cheeks. Recently I've had this swollen lip as well. Mm-hmm. That it goes one part, just blows up. But I have what I call, Alice, a hypothesis about my raccoon rash. You want to know what it is?
What is it?
What did I have on my forehead this morning?
Your lotion?
Correct.
You think you're allergic to your face lotion?
I think I'm allergic to the lotion.
Huh.
That's what's doing, because it goes right here and here. And this is like, it feels like I got a sunburn in these places. Okay, I'll talk to somebody who gives a crap.
Maybe I'll
get married and somebody will care about me. Hang on. Okay.
I have like a steroid cream that you can put on it. They'll probably feel good. And I told you take Benadryl too. I think you've developed an allergy to it.
Who develops an allergy? I'm just about 50.
Everybody develops allergies.
I don't think so. All right, you ready? Mm-hmm. You've braced yourself?
I'm braced myself. I'm ready to go.
All right. Here we go. Okay. So, here we go.
Oh, Tom, did you lose weight? I didn't recognize you. Jeez, you look like a young Richard Gere. Didn't even recognize you. Oh my gosh. Congrats.
Wow, you hear that? By the way, Richard Gere is different colored hair than I have, but still, I appreciate it.
To hear Tom talk about it, it sounds like Alice swallowed an entire sleeve of sweet tarts and then prayed that she'd live. What is wrong with you? The woman made an attempt.
Oh, yeah.
Be it a weak and asinine attempt, but nonetheless. And Alice, did Tom leave the nitrous oxide bottle open in your corner of the room? What a show. You guys go deep, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cheswick. I appreciate you appreciating it.
Hey, Tom and Alice.
Hey.
I once dated a girl who was communist.
Ooh, couldn't
she was, well, you know, I don't mean to kiss and tell, but you know me, I'm pretty straightforward. She was a freak.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I could see that. I could see
In the
communist.
sheets.
Didn't you tell me one time you hooked up with someone who was like a militantly lesbian?
This was yeah. If Mike's watching, he'll remember her. Yeah, she was. I can't identify her too much. She was very quirky. She was vicious, and she was mean as hell. And like all night, the whole thing was that she was like really like rude. And her friend was like, "I'm sorry, she's just like that." And my friend was hooking up with Mike was hooking up with her friend, and this girl was just really rude and vicious. And I decided to just enjoy it and hang out with her. And then she liked me. So there you go. That's right. And so yes, there's a chance we were even romantic. Correct. Yeah. Hello?
Wow. Morgan's asking in the chat if you're going to respond to Kirk's prediction of your shedding of your mortal coil, but we have not watched KMS yet today.
Oh, is that today?
I don't know if that's what he's referring to, but if Morgan's asking, are we going to respond? We are watching KMS.
Morgan,
I saved it.
But he can tell.
So Tom and I can watch together.
Or unless
he said a prediction of you shedding your mortal coil.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like in which particular way? Because usually it's something to do with either eating myself to death, having a heart attack, or Dr. Dan drilling through my brain. Usually it's something along those lines. I think it's something. Let me tell you something.
Morgan says he also said Dave was going to kick it. So
Dave is not alive though. There's no.
Oh, come on.
You put a mirror in front of Dave's nose and mouth, and there's no condensation on that mirror. Sorry about that. Can I go? Should we go?
You can go.
So, Morgan, I will respond to that tomorrow. Let's remember to respond to it tomorrow.
Yes, okay? We're going to take a look. We're going to take a look at KMS right after we finish this.
You know what? What I bet you it is? I bet you he says, goes peacefully.
Tommy in New Hampshire says obesity.
I don't think Kirk would use such a rude word about me like that.
There's a range of ways that obesity can take you out, I would say. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Thank you to Gerry Callahan. Go follow him and listen to the show if you don't already. Oh, Morgan says it was Dave Portnoy, not Dave. Dave.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, check that. Obviously listen to Gerry's show, follow his locals, all that stuff. And yeah, thank you. As always, if you want to be in our live streams and get extra content from us, you can go to patreon.com/burnbarrel or for free at burnbarrelpodcast.com.